What was I just looking for? We'll let everybody else know, and then we'll run through the watch list. Well, I'm not going to wait for everybody to come. Like, they can come late. But a bunch of assets look like they are reset and could start making a move up, like we talked about last night before my power went out. For those who weren't here last night, I'll remind you, or briefly explain it. But we're seeing a lot of assets after the last big corrective move down. We've reset, and we could potentially get a nice solid bounce up. Some assets may move sideways because we are turning into we're definitely turning into a bear trend. But we could make a final strong push up. But certain assets may make a big move up. Some may just get a small bounce. So we're going to look for the ones that have a good lower risk entry where we could potentially get in at the bottom before a bounce. And then if we don't get a huge bounce, it's not the end of the world. But in some cases, we may get a relatively large bounce if we can get in low enough where we can get in low risk. It's definitely worth it to take the chance. Like I explained the other day, when you're getting into a bear trend, there's still plenty of opportunities to long, right? You can get in for all the little bounces on the way down. Every time we make a big move down, we can make a big move down and then get a nice bounce up. So, this chart doesn't really have any examples, but this does. This is like a huge extended bear trend, right? On ORN, and then just from here to here, big bounce. And then this dump here, if you were to buy in at the bottom, you get a big bounce up. And now we're correcting again. So if you were to buy at the bottom here, could get another big bounce up. Could be 10, 15, 20% potentially. Like this last run was a 40% run, right? So right now, if you look at the 4-hour Stoke, we're nice and reset. We are oversold, kind of like we were back here, not as low. But then again, we are bearish, so I don't necessarily expect it to break out big as I would have back then when the RSI and Stoke were both that low. In this case, the RSI is not nearly as oversold as it was back then, so it's not quite as bullish, but there's definitely some bullish indications here as well. We have a pretty decent trend line following along the base right there. That's a really good trend line. It's a very, very modest falling wedge. It's not what I would consider a strong and pronounced falling wedge, but still, falling wedges happen to be one of my favorite bullish formations. This doesn't have a lot of trade history, but you can see this last big bottom was pretty close to where the bottom is here. So we can also draw a horizontal support So we can keep an eye on that. Check this out. So if we look at like the bottom right here, that wick bottomed out is really close to where we bottomed out on this dump. So that's a strong support down there. If you were to enter in right now and then place your stop loss below that strong support, it would be too low. My stop loss would have to be, it's going to be 6% probably, watch. Yeah, see, that would be about 6%. I would have to put my stop loss a full 6% below my entry if I were to buy right now. So instead, I may wait and see if it can break above the trend line on the top. Once it clears that trend line, maybe I'll get in, because that probably means we might get a good bounce. Or I could wait till it gets lower and try to get in closer to this base support here. The issue with that is, since we are oversold here on the Stoke on the 4 hour, there's a pretty decent chance we could bounce. Last time it happened the other day, we got a pretty small bounce, but even that, it's worth going for it if you can get in low enough risk. That bounce still did 13.5%, right? So if you look here, this bounce from bottom to top is 14%, right? Obviously, you don't get in at the exact bottom, but we were bottomed out, and we had a full run up on the Stoke, that full wave on the Stoke. So if you bought in at the bottom and you sold at the top, you would have been able to get, you wouldn't have sold all the way for 14, but you could have made 8, 9, 10% profit. And now we're reset in a similar way, so it's certainly possible we can get a move relatively close to what we saw last time. Plus, couple that with the fact that on a lot of these assets, the daily is also reset on the Stoke, and the daily is primed for a bounce. I definitely think we can get anywhere from a 5-day up to as much as 10 days of bullish activity before we have to look for that next wave down. That's why I said last night in the stream, even though we have this big extended correction coming, and I think it's probably going to relate to what we see with the it's probably going to be in some way dependent on the election. Despite all that, we're not in that bear trend yet. We're in that point now. We're in no man's land. We're getting we're either right at the top of this run or slightly below the top. We get one more little push up. Well, it could be a big push, but one more push up, then we're going to get that extended dump. Or what I talked about in the stream the other night, if Trump wins the election and pulls this off, I think all markets are going to go on a strong run, celebratory run, like the stock market did in 2016 when he won. Because if you think about it, if Biden wins, we're going to see massive hits to the economy. Not only because of his policies and his tax increases and things like that, even though he claims he won't be increasing taxes, he won't be creating new taxes, but what he will be doing is repealing the Trump tax cuts. And repealing the Trump tax cuts means that everybody is going to be paying more taxes, right? So it's still a tax increase, even though he claims he's not increasing taxes. So that would be bad. He would also impose more regulation, which industry and markets do not like. And most importantly, because of COVID, he would impose lockdowns. He said repeatedly that he would impose lockdowns. He's now claiming, oh, I'm not going to lock down the country. That's bullshit. He said it over and over again. Every scientist talks about the only way to stop transmission or reduce it is a complete and total lockdown. And then he talks about the successes that South Korea had. And, the reason why we did so bad is we could have done what they did. We couldn't have done what they did for a multitude of reasons. If you guys want to talk about it, I'd be happy to explain it to you. But if Biden wins, we're most likely going to see markets take a really big hit. If Trump can pull it off, even though he's down in the polls and everything, if he can pull this off and win this thing, that would be insane. I think the markets would react extraordinarily bullishly. And I think that would bleed into cryptocurrency markets too, even though it doesn't really relate to the general policy you factor in from the executive. So since the election's coming up, we could get one of those extended bull runs where you get to the top of a big run and then it just keeps going up. And then when that happens, you get the thing where the Stoke just goes sideways. We talked about that recently, like on the daily. You could see it on Ethereum, for instance. We got to this point where we got on this big bull run, and then right here, it was like, all right, we have to correct. And we kept going up, we kept going up, we kept going up. And that whole way, the Stoke was just moving sideways, coming down slightly, but mostly just moving sideways as we continued this massive bull run. That can happen. So even though we're seeing the weekly and the monthly max out, and that's starting to indicate that we're about to get into that longer term correction, it is possible we can get that final strong bull run where we just keep running, even though the indicators are all the way up and maxed out, overbought correction mode where they're screaming correction, 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 but we just keep going up in price, we can see that again if there's a strong enough external variable like Trump winning the election, which I think will drive a massive run in equities and commodities markets, and that would directly influence the crypto market. So that's one operating theory. That's why I said, even though I expect this big long-term correction, it may not happen right away, and that's why I'm not selling any of my longer-term trades. I'm holding all of my long-term trades on the exchange, so if I need to sell them, if we start to dump, I can instantly sell them, and I can set a stop loss. I've been setting a couple stop losses here and there, like for my really big Ethereum position, which I bought all the way at the bottom when it was down in the 200s. My Ethereum position, I have several stop losses set just in case it were to dump 15, well, actually more. If it were to dump 18% or 22% or 26%, then I have stop losses at those levels just in case of an emergency. Because if it's dumping that much, it's probably a free falling crash where it's going to go down 70 or 80%, right? So I moved my long-term stuff to the exchanges so I could set the stop losses. We talked about that. And I also can sell it quickly. If I left everything in cold storage and wallets and the market started to dump, I'd be screwed. By the time I got it sent over to the exchange to sell it, I probably would lose, $70,000. So there's still a chance we can get that run. And if you look at Ethereum, I'm definitely going to get into a big Ethereum trade as well. The daily is extraordinarily bullish. I was talking about this, not this live stream, but 2 live streams ago. It looks like the daily is getting into a clean cycle again, especially on this guy. Move up, move down, move up, move down, move up, move down. Perfectly represented. My Stoke model is flawless on Ethereum. It really is on point. So with this reset, we're most likely going to get a strong bounce here. The only reason why I didn't get in last night when we were streaming is because I was hoping it would dip down a little bit lower, and we didn't get lower. Because buying in now means my stop loss would have to go probably 4% below my entry to get below the top of the cloud, below the support right here at 375, and below the 55 EMA. Look at that. My Ichima dynamics, right? My 5 Ichima dynamic supports include the top of the cloud and the 55 EMA. Look at that 55 EMA. That wick hit perfectly. Look right here. 55 EMA, boom. 55 EMA, boom. 55 EMA, boom. All the way up, we're riding my EMA until we get above the cloud, and then we sit right above the cloud and ride that too. So it's a really strong support zone right here. The probability of it failing is probably under 10%. There's probably more than a 90% chance that we hold at that support and at least get a couple daily candles of sideways or bullish activity. So it's really a win-win. The probability of losing on this trade is extremely low. The only question is when to get in, and unfortunately, I don't know if I'm going to get a better entry. I was hoping for one. I was waiting for the 4-hour to come back down last night because the 4-hour was maxed out, started coming back down. It corrected slightly, but it didn't get any lower than that. I could wait to see if maybe it gets close to the 222 EMA and I can get down around 380 and change, 381, 382. But at this point, I don't know if it's really worth it. Maybe I should just jump in, take a little bit extra risk just to know that I'm in the trade and I don't have to worry about missing out. Shorter term, looking at the 4-hour chart here, there's still a nice trend line too, more immediately. So there is a good chance it could continue up from here. That's a pretty decent trend line. That's a lot of 4-hour candles in a row that are holding right at that level. So we may continue up along this trend line and not really go any lower on the 4-hour. We might not reset further. This might actually be the lowest I can possibly get in. Just as an aside, again, with my Ichima model, we talked about this before, how the top of the cloud was an epic bounce right there. Then this wick, another epic bounce at the top of the cloud. We finally break into the cloud and look where it bounces. Right at the bottom of the cloud, a few candles with a tiny wick down, and then we start launching up from there. So just another indication of how strong my Ichima model is and how well it works. Prior to this bounce here, look what happened here. Riding just along the EMAs, especially my 222 EMA. It's an incredible model. It's so simple. And to be able to have those dynamic supports in various areas of the chart where you may not have sufficient trading history is an incredibly valuable asset. So I'm going to jump into Ethereum right now, actually. I'm going to start buying in. If we do go down lower, I'll just buy in more. I'll just load up on some more. So I think for now, I'm going to just, how I've talked about this before, I like to get into these short-term trades where I'm risking 0.75% or 1% or 1.5%. When I get into these trades where I set my stop loss down at 3.5% below my entry, that's usually only something I do for long-term trades. So in this case, I'm going to do this initially short-term. I'm going to set my stop loss at 3.5% below my entry. I'm buying right now. And my theory is that if we can get just an initial bounce up, I'll be able to move my stop loss up and close it, so I'm not taking as much risk. Since I have to take 3.5% risk here, I'm going to make this a spot trade. I'm not going to apply leverage to it. But if we start bouncing up and we get a confirmation where it looks like my daily model is right and we are going to get a bounce, I would say if we can get up from here maybe above 390, if we can get up above 390 over the next 18 hours on this daily candle, if this candle can push up above 390 and close in 18 hours, that would be a really bullish sign. In that case, I would probably get into a short-term trade with 10x or 20x leverage. For now, I'm just going to get into a spot trade on this. And again, I'm considering this. I'm applying the same principle I do when I do longer-term trades. When I do longer-term trades, I say, all right, I'm going to be taking much more risk, 3.5% risk here, but I'm going to put less money into it because there's such a great potential profit that it would offset the additional risk, and I'm not going to put as much money into it. So instead of putting $10,000 in with 1.5% risk, right, I could take 3% risk, 2 times as much risk, but only put $5,000 in instead of $10,000. That means if the trade fails, I'll lose the exact same amount of money as I would have lost if I was only risking 1.5%, but investing twice as much. So my potential loss in dollars is going to be exactly the same. And that's how I compensate for that. When I have to get into a trade where I really want to put my stop loss below a strong support zone, like right here, and I mean, I could put my stop loss higher because there are some other supports here I can use down on the 4-hour chart, on the 1-hour chart. But looking at the daily, this is really the key support zone right there. Since I want to put my stop loss a little bit below it, I'm going to take that extra risk, and in order to offset that, I'm just going to put less money into it. That way, I won't lose more money as a result of taking on that additional risk. Does that make sense? Everybody understand what I'm talking about? If you guys have any questions about any of the stuff I just mentioned, let me know. I really like explaining the educational topics, especially since I invited the basic group to this stream. Usually you guys don't get to be in the live streams at all. And when I talk about these educational topics, it's something that only premium gets. So since you're here, you may as well take advantage. If you have any questions about the various topics I just mentioned, which are the educational topics I love to teach about, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. We don't have a lot of time, so let me know if you have any questions. I'm probably only going to stream for another 15 minutes or so, I think, and then I have to go. Now your thoughts on if Biden wins. Are we looking for an early bear season or just short term? Well, I already answered that, right? So I think unless you asked that question after I explained it, but just to clarify, the theory is that if Biden wins, then we're going to get that long-term extended correction I've been talking about. It's coming no matter what. The difference is that if Trump wins, we can get one of those situations like this, right, where we had this long extended bull run that just kept going up and up, even after the model was screaming correction. The RSI and the Stochh were both really overbought, but the price just kept going up and up and up and up and up. That can happen if Trump wins. And if Biden wins, we wouldn't get the benefit of that extra pump, and instead, we would just follow the normal TA, which is like, if it was here, that means we're going to correct. And again, short term on the daily, we have up to a potential week to 10 days of a bullish run here. It could happen. It might not be quite that long, but we might actually get an extended run like that. But then when you pull out to the weekly and the monthly, you can see the weekly is maxed out and we're starting to come down. After this daily run, after we get this cycle out of the way where the daily goes on a run up on the Stochh and then turns and starts coming back down, once we max out and start coming back down, that's probably going to complete the weekly bearish reversal, and then we'll start coming back down on the weekly. Once we start coming back down on the weekly, that's going to confirm the monthly bearish reversal, which is already pretty much confirmed. So this downtrend on the monthly essentially means that we're already in it. The only question now is whether or not we could get that external variable, like my example with the Trump win, where all markets pump, right? the theory is that even though we have this confirmation that we're turning down, we could still get this one final pump that can take several months potentially. But most likely it would be relatively short, a month or two. We get that final pump, and then we'll continue this downtrend, because this downtrend. Just look at what happened the last time we had this big downtrend. It was an extraordinarily long-term bear market that was from the all-time highs down. Or this is from after the last bounce. I have, this is the Ethereum, so it's a little bit different. But I have some BTC charts that aren't as congested. I don't have nearly as much stuff on the charts. And I use it specifically for this. So if you go back and look at the monthly, we had our all-time highs in 2018. So we had, since that drop, that was obviously a huge drop down to 3,200. Then we had the next run up to 14K, and then that correction, which culminated with the dump from coronavirus, and that aligned perfectly with the Stoke cycle on the way back down. Then we went all the way up, and now we're turning back down again. Now, I showed you on Ethereum, it actually looked like it was a completed reversal, but if you look at Bitcoin, you see how it's doing that thing already, where it maxes out, and then it just stays sideways, and it doesn't confirm and come back down. In this case, it went up, started going sideways, and now it may even cross back over and just kind of zigzag a little bit up in this range. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So I think if Trump wins, we're going to get that. We're going to see Bitcoin continue sideways with a Stoke like this for an extra month, maybe two, and we could see the price potentially run all the way up to 18 to 20K. It is possible. I don't want to get your hopes up. It's definitely possible. And again, just a reminder, that's, again, even though I have this really bearish model that I've been talking about probably for 6 months now, I've been talking about once we eventually get to the point where the Stoke maxes out on the monthly, we're going to have to consider a potential 6-month bear market, which could start right around then. We're there. It's happening. It's just a function of when. And that's why I said, all right, I'm going to move all of my assets that I have in cold storage. They're all going onto the exchange. That way I can sell them in an emergency, and I can set a stop loss in case the market does crash. I can have a stop loss to protect myself, so it'll liquidate my assets for me and make sure that whatever loss I do take is far less impactful than it would have been without those stop losses. And for those who don't know, I don't like letting politics come into the group, just because it's so divisive nowadays, as you guys obviously know. I talk about it on Twitter, but just in the group, I really don't like talking about it myself. You guys are more than welcome to, but as the leader of the group, I just don't want people to feel uncomfortable. And if there are a bunch of liberals in the group, I don't want them to feel uncomfortable here, because I shit on liberals all the time and make fun of SJW, fuck me, SJWs, for being little fags who live in their mom's basement and eat bagel bites all day because they're 29-year-old virgins who can't even get laid, and are too dumb to understand they're being brainwashed by a malicious media. Like, I don't want to say that stuff and offend people, so I don't talk about that stuff in the group and in streams. But for those who don't know, just to give you a little insight, I used to be super anti-Trump, and then when I realized just how manipulative and evil the media is, I realized that 99% of the reasons why I hated Trump were bullshit, So, like, I used to think, oh, Trump called Mexicans rapists, because I used to watch the news, and I actually used to trust the news. And you guys know me, I'm very smart and analytical, but I was just busy in my professional career, and I would watch CNN, and I just took it for granted, and I didn't really question it. And then over time, as I started to see just how insane they were, I would go back and I would look at the transcript of when Trump said X, Y, and Z, and I would be like, wait, he literally just said A, B, C, and the news is telling me, oh, he's racist because he said X, Y, Z. So as I noticed more and more of that stuff, I realized how manipulative they were, and as of a couple of years ago, what happened was I spent the first year of his presidency telling my friends who liked him, oh, he's Putin's puppet, he colluded with Russia, you're going to see, wait till the Mueller report came out, and I made an ass of myself. I just embarrassed myself. I spent a year and a half telling my friends about how he's going down and he's a traitor, and then in the end it turned out the entire Russia narrative was complete bullshit and completely fabricated and pushed by the media and pushed by Democrats, and I made a total ass of myself, eating it up like a little bitch. And I said never again. And from that point forward, every single word I heard from the media, I assumed that it was a lie unless I could prove otherwise. And that radically changed how I viewed politics and how I viewed Trump. So if you hate the guy, that's totally cool. If you're a liberal and like I used to be, if you're a Democrat, which I used to be, I totally respect that, and you're welcome to your opinion. I don't want people to feel uncomfortable in the group, so that's why I don't talk about politics in the group. But in this context, it's important because we're talking about how various political circumstances can affect the markets, and I think it's very crucial. I think even me, because I was one of the people who said, "Oh, if Trump wins, the market's going to crash." I didn't understand. I just, again, the media was just in my head. And when he won in 2016, and the market went on the most epic bull run in history, once I was able to think clearly, I saw it from an analytical and a logical perspective. He reduced regulation and pro business. He lowered taxes. These are all things that markets love. One thing that markets do not love is uncertainty. So that's one thing I was concerned about because he thrives on uncertainty. But hey, they loved him, and I'm happy with that. Now with this new election, uncertainty is going to be a problem because we're probably not going to know the winner of the election for a little while, and that can also drive us into this correction. So that's something else to be aware of. As Tuesday comes around, everybody needs to be extra vigilant because if we end up getting into a dispute immediately following election day, if it's not a total landslide one way or the other, we could see the market react in a very negative way, even without Trump winning or without Biden winning. If we go a month or 2 months without knowing who the next president of the United States is going to be, it's going to be complete and utter turmoil, and the markets are going to freak the fuck out. And that includes cryptocurrency markets. So again, if you guys are holding stuff in cold storage, if you guys have assets in wallets or a Trezor or something, you don't have to necessarily put it all on the exchange, but at least a portion of your longer term stuff should probably be on an exchange, a secure exchange. So if the market does completely start to crash, you can at least have a stop loss. You can sell, and then you could always buy it back later when the price goes down. But at least you won't take a huge loss. You'll be able to act quickly and exit the market if you have to preserve your capital. Because as I always teach, preservation of capital is the most important thing. All right. Was there anybody else who had questions? And then I'll run through my watch list and see if there's any good short-term trades. Darth, we love your politics. It makes me laugh very much. Well, there were 17 people in the stream, and now there's 16, so not everybody does. Oh, you retracted your message. You said something, I didn't have a chance to read it in time. Now it's retracted. It must have been you admitting to being a homo. You guys know that Harvey Milk, anybody know who Harvey Milk is? My family's actually big on pro-gay causes because Harvey Milk was my cousin. He was the first gay elected politician. The movie Milk was based on his life. Sean Penn played my cousin Harvey. So he was actually my cousin. Yeah, just a cool claim to fame. All right. Nobody has any questions about any of the stuff we discussed so far at all? Be it fundamentals of the election, the technical models I explained, the longer term outlook, any of the shorter term strategies, Ichima and Stoke model, nothing. Everybody understands 100% of what I discussed, even people who are basic members who don't really have that much exposure to the educational stuff. No one has any questions? Use the That just somebody was just typing in Discord, so if you're gonna be asking me questions or something, just use the YouTube chat. So that way I just keep that one window open, it's easier. All right, well, yeah, let me know if you have a question. A girl you dated said that Harvey Milk was her uncle. Oh, then I'm probably related to her. That's funny. Unless she was lying. Unless she was talking about Sean Penn. Here, check it out. You actually want to see Harvey Milk at my dad's bar mitzvah? Yeah, got him. Well, there's a bunch of pictures of him in my family albums and stuff, but check this out. I got a picture of him from my dad's bar mitzvah. It's cool. I'll post it in a premium chat in Discord, just to easiest place to share it. Well, actually, I could do it this way. Let's check this out. This is, so that's Harvey Milk. That's my cousin Michael, who you don't even want to know what his business is and his website. You wouldn't fucking believe it. He sells transvestite stuff, like women's clothing for men. It's crazy. Prosthetic breast and vaginas. It's insane. It's insane. So that's my cousin Michael. That was Harvey. And my Aunt Carol. I gotta show you. I'll show you his website one of these days. You won't even believe it. It's like freaky as shit. He actually, when I was in college, I helped him design a new website and do some marketing and stuff. So I had the pleasure of seeing all the stuff on his website. Oh God, I don't even want to talk about it. I'm scarred for life. All right, let's run through my watch list and see if we can find any good short-term trades. We're already running a bit late. I wanted to be off by 1:45, so let's just give it another 10-15 minutes, run through, see if we can find any good setups and potential trades, and hopefully there's some nice opportunities here. I'm still in MTL, haven't gotten stopped out. It was looking really good, and then it dipped, but on the bright side, we do have a strong support down here. The issue I have now is the 4-hour maxed out way too soon. I was banking on this bounce here. The 4-hour bounced perfectly on the Stoke. We just didn't get enough action on the price. I'm going to let this ride. I could sell it right now and just get most of my money back. But, whatever. If this support fails, I'm not going to lose that much. I'll lose $100 or a couple $100, so it's not a big deal. I'm still in IOTX. That one's still looking much better because that's inverted. It's not trading in line with MTL. That actually just bottomed out and is just starting its run up. We have a resistance to get through, but I'm really bullish about this. I love this trade. So if we can get above that resistance here, we might be able to make a strong push up. The last move up on the Stoke didn't get a huge run, but we could be able to maybe get 8-10% profit out of this thing if we can get a little push above the resistance. Oh yeah, were there any other questions in the chat? Let me just check. What do you look for before a massive rally? I don't know what you mean by that. You mean like when I say it looks like we might get a big rally here, like what signs do I use to come up with that analysis? There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I've talked about my FATAPAMP model with FATA, P, and MP, right? So I have fundamental analysis, technical analysis, people, and market psychology. And I factor in a lot of those things. So if I say, it looks like we might go on a strong extended bull run here, a lot of the time it's purely a TA thing, and sometimes there are fundamentals at play. More recently, most of those analyses I've come up with, and you guys know how accurate they've been, it's been pretty insane, have been based on fundamentals. So on Bitcoin, for instance, this entire bull run, entire fucking bull run, from bottom, precise bottom to top, I called with like an insane amount of precision. And that was mostly from the weekly and the monthly. So my Stoke model, if you go back to the monthly, this was in March after the big dump. So after that, as soon as we started recovering from the big dump, on the way back up from the bottom, a lot of you guys got in with me. I started buying Bitcoin and Ethereum long term and trading, day trading the altcoins on the way up, and we got a huge run. I mean, from the bottom to the top was 216%, and we might even push up a little bit higher. The one reason, by the way, I should just mention, I think I even said this in the last live stream. I specifically said that if we can get up to 14K, that would be an excellent final top before the big dump. And I just want you to know, if you didn't remember, I specifically said that double top could be key. And we got that exact double top. So a big dump and a big extended correction starting from right here, I'm sorry to say, would be perfect. So again, the only way we get that final push up, I believe, is if Trump wins and we get one of those bigger extended runs that gives us just an extra big pump after our big run, like right here. Um, like I showed you during that run up, or the earlier run up where I showed you on the weekly or the daily. So that is possible, but I think I said in the live stream there's like a 10% chance. Yeah, there's like a 10% chance we go on a bigger run from here. It's like 90% odds we're starting that bigger correction right now. And that double top is just one more sign that leads me to think we are going to continue downward from here. But in this case, my Stoke model on that run up was really the key. It's such an insanely accurate system. And I've explained before that all I did, right, when I came up with this or anything else, I look for repeatable patterns, and that's how you predict the future. I use the analogy of the hurricane models, right, where the Weather Service will put in all their models, and then they'll see all those different lines on the chart, and then they give you the cone of uncertainty of where they expect it to go. Well, every time there's ever been a hurricane, they recorded the temperature and the surface temperature and the water temperature and the wind speeds and the pressure, and they take all those records and they put it into the model so that based on what happened before, it'll predict what's going to happen next. And I'm doing the same thing. So in the case of my Stoke model, it's so insanely accurate because it's been on point. Sometimes it's not. If you go back to pre-all-time highs, it wasn't that accurate because there wasn't enough data really there at that point. Or I guess there was because it was accurate earlier than that. It just wasn't around here. So sometimes some of those different indicators will be really in sync and they'll work perfectly, and sometimes they zigzag all over the place and they're completely useless. And when that happens, I have to come up with alternatives. In this case, it just so happens that my Stoke model was really perfect. This was a perfect repeatable pattern. It was flowing flawlessly, clean, reproducing repeatable Stoke cycles and waves. So when we bottomed out and we started to reverse up here on the monthly, I knew we were going to get a strong run up. And that's exactly what happened. After the big dump from Corona, that Black Swan event, when I started buying in right after that on the way back up, and I knew that we were going to go on a big extended run, and that's exactly what happened. So in this case, really, all I needed was my Stoke oscillator, my Stoke model. And then I can get more precise as I go down in time. With the weekly, I was able to not only call the initial bottom and a big run up from there, but after we had that first big run, and then we corrected on the Stoke like this, and during this down correction, right, on the stochastic, during that, when that was happening, we only had a slight correction back down, kind of more sideways than anything on the price. So that's a really bullish sign. When you have a big run up like that and then a correction, and the correction is pretty much just sideways and doesn't really come down that much, that's an extraordinarily bullish sign. That means, essentially, that there's so much buy pressure that even when you're supposed to correct and come back down, it might not be going up, but it's just going sideways. It's not going down. And that's a really strong bullish indicator. So once that happened, I knew the next push up would be equally as strong, if not stronger, than the prior one. And it was just as aggressive. Yeah, so you could dive down into the lower time frames for more precision, but you can see, same thing here. I was able to predict it with impeccable accuracy using nothing more than my stochastic model. Just my Stoke model was really all I needed. But anyway, all right, so yeah, let's run through and see what we can find. I don't know why there's only 12 people left in the stream. Maybe people got mad. That's the thing. It's like I barely even talked about politics. We didn't get into any offensive topics, and like 5 people have left the stream since I started talking about it. It's so weird. I hate that shit. Prior moves before stuff. Yeah, well, people always say look left, right? Well, when people say look left, what they're essentially saying is look left on the chart and look what happened in the past. In the past, when the price was at this level and the Stoke was at this level and the RSI was at this level and the MACD looked like this and the EMAs kind of looked like that and the Ichimoku cloud looked like this, when all those things were like this before, the price went down 20%. Well, now all those things look like that again, so I'm going to predict that the price will again go down 20%. And you don't always have to be right, but that's all it is. That's all you're doing when you're modeling. You're just looking left and you're saying, well, in the past, when the market looked like A, B, and C, it went up 10%. And now the market looks like A, B, and C, so I'm going to expect it to go up 10% again like last time. You're generating these predictive models based on prior history and prior trading activity. All right, let's run through and see. We only got a few minutes to go, so let me see if I can find any setups. And again, I'm trying to look for like MTL, still really high. I mean, I have a trade that I would probably bet I'm going to get stopped out on this. I don't think that support is going to hold because it looks like we have just too much momentum to bleed off here. But hey, stranger things have happened. I may get lucky and it may hold. So I'm going to leave that trade open. I'll take the small loss if it goes down more. ADA, I said last night in the stream that ADA is starting to look really bullish because we're getting the strong uptrend. Well, it's a slight uptrend, but you can see it's starting to form on RSI, and you can see that reversal. So we had a little bit of bullish divergence preceding this bottom. So we may get a strong bounce from here. We just need to get into a position where we can build up some momentum. And right here, we're getting pretty low on the Stochs. We might be getting close. If you look at the daily, there's a really strong, well-defined bounce from reversal happening, and it's right on the 222 EMA. I was waiting last night for it to get closer to the 222, and it happened right on that candle, but I missed it because my power went out, and I didn't get back on until tonight. But if I were to buy right around here, I could probably set a stop loss 2.25% below my entry, and that stop loss would be right below the 222 EMA, which is right where I want to be. I'm willing to do that, except if I'd much rather set my stop loss a little bit lower than that instead of having it right below the 222 like that. I'd much prefer to have it probably maybe around 9,000 right there. So if I were to do that, I would need the price to come down slightly more. And I might actually be able to get that, because if you look at the 4 hour, again, we're starting to get a slow reversal on the Stochs here, but it hasn't happened yet. There's certainly a good chance that it can come down a little bit more before that happens. Let's dive down to the hourly and see. Yeah, see, the hourly is nice and high on the Stochs, and you can see it's starting to come down. That's why I always say, as I go down to lower time frames, I can get more and more precise with it, right? So I'm looking for an entry here, and it looked like, based on the daily, well, it looks like it's bouncing. Let's just get in. Well, hold on. Once I go down to the 4 hour and then to the hourly, now at the hourly, I can see it got rejected from the bottom of the cloud, which is one of my key resistances based on my Ichima model, right? And we have a reversal on the Stochs and a pretty clean Stochs cycle. Move up, move down, bounce back up with a pretty slight bounce up, and now another reversal coming back down. So it looks like, based on this, we should come back down a little bit. And if I can get in, like right here, there's a horizontal support. All these candles right here were bouncing right at this level, right, of 92.50. Same thing with all these candles here, with the exception of one wick. For the last couple days, it's been a really strong support right there. Right here. So we'll see. If we can get a little bit lower and get really close to that support, I could probably buy in right there. Then if I set my stop loss around 9K like I wanted to, it would be 2.8% below my entry. But I don't even have to go that low. I could probably do 90.50 about there. So I could get away with like 2.5% risk here. I just needed to come down a little bit more. I'm going to set an alert right here, so I'll get a notification if it gets down to like 92.70 maybe. Not that much further, just a little bit more. If it can get down below 92.70, then I'll probably buy in right around there. And again, I'm still in IOTX here. IOTX is looking really good. There's definitely some potential there. Algo is a really strong reset here. The only issue I have with Algo is this has been an extended dump, and we haven't really had any relief on it. When we're having this Stochs cycle, every bounce back up on the Stochs corresponds to a really small bounce. Like this one right here was only a 3% bounce, right? On the 4 hour chart, that's not very good. I'd really like to see a stronger bounce than that. The one saving grace with it is you can see here we had this full reset when we were oversold and a big run back up on the Stoke. That was a pretty nice bounce. So that bounce was actually 15%. And now, most recently, it looks pretty similar to what just happened. We were all the way down in that oversold territory and got a full bounce all the way up. And this one bounced up 12%, 11.5%. So that's actually not a bad sign. We're also coming back down to where there's a pretty strong support zone right around here. The reason why the supports I have are so close together is because I was charting it on the hourly, but back here on the 4 hour, I wouldn't have all three. I would probably get rid of these three and use one or two. But if I dive down to the hourly, I can see, sure enough, this is one of my old supports and it's perfect. I'll just get rid of the middle one, and then the bottom one is kind of right at the bottom of that dump. We're coming back up on the hourly. There's 2 hours left on this candle. I'll be asleep. I'm going to go to sleep in like 10, 15 minutes. So I think I probably have to wait on this. I kind of want to pull the trigger on it, but to buy in here, I can't really make it a low risk one, because if I were to buy right here, my SL, I mean, I guess I could enter here and then see if this one specific horizontal support holds, then I could set my stop loss like 1.5% below my entry. That's not a bad bet. But the daily is confirmed bullish, but hasn't really reversed yet. This has been a pretty massive dump, so to try to catch the bottom of such a strong dump is really aggressive. The last time we had a dump of this size, if you tried to catch the bottom, you would have got screwed, because look what happened. We got one of those sideways things where it looked like it was about to bounce, but then it just kind of ran sideways and kept going lower. So this one is a tough call. I think it might be worth it to get it, just something small, like not a huge position, but a nice one, just because I can keep my risk relatively low. I can enter now, and my stop loss would be only 1.5% below my entry. I may do that. I guess I can come back to it later. I just don't think it's that attractive of a trade, or I want to jump at the opportunity. I'm probably only going to get into 1 or 2 trades now anyway, so I'm going to see if I can be a little bit more surgical with it and spot the best opportunities before I just go wildly hopping into something else. It's like Matic, for instance, looks good. However, that is a bit of an early reversal. I would have liked to see it get all the way down and have the Stoke fully reset. I like the uptrend developing on the RSI too. Let me see what the daily looks like. Yeah, the daily also looks like it has a nice confirmed bullish reversal. This one is similar to Algo, see, with that big extended dump. The only difference in this case is we've actually started to recover a little bit more than Algo has. Keep running down. I'm going to see if I can just run through the 4 hour and find some of the best setups on the 4 hour. ORN, we talked about before, again looks really good, but I just can't find a good entry here without being too risky. If we were sitting right on that support again, I would have bought in. I missed that one, because it was at 4 a.m. I guess, but. Sorry, I was just looking at my list on my phone trying to see. I noted a couple other trades earlier, but it doesn't look like those are really set up now. So let me just run through. I'm going to keep running through this list and see if anything else looks like it has a nice reset on the 4-hour. Again, some of these, like XTZ, right, is just had a run. So this run, if I got in at the bottom, that would have been beautiful. So I'm looking for those. I'm looking for that opportunity. This had a long extended dump down and then a strong recovery bounce. That's sort of like what it looks like on Algo and Matic. So those could be good opportunities. That's why I'm considering them. I'm just not pulling the trigger just yet. They look sort of like XTZ did. So let's keep running down, and Neo is getting close to bouncing. Link is just in the middle. There could be an opportunity with Link, but oh, you know what? Actually, let me just. I wanted to make sure people are aware for my trades. So I didn't finalize this. So let me do that. This is definitely going to be adjusted. I'm not going to keep my risk at 3%, over 3% on a trade for Ethereum. So let me finish this, actually, because it looks like if it's dipping a little bit now, I might be able to get in a little bit lower, and then I don't have to take the risk I didn't want to take. Yeah, we seem to be pretty much riding that trendline support, but it could potentially wick down further to the bottom of the cloud here, maybe. Alright, if I buy right here, I can keep my risk to about 3% if I put my stop loss at 373.35 roughly. That's what I'm gonna do. Let me just set my buy orders for Ethereum. Okay. Should be good. Right, just wanted to post my chart to the group so everybody's aware. But again, if you came in late, the reason why I set my stop loss pretty low for me on this Ethereum trade is because I don't know if we're going to be getting much lower. I don't know if I'm going to have an opportunity to buy any lower than it is right now, so I figured I'll just buy right here. If it goes down lower, I can always buy more, right? So if the price goes down a bit, I could buy some more of it, and then my overall average entry price would go down, right? It's called dollar cost averaging down. Everybody's familiar with that, right? I could buy at a lower price, and then my overall entry price on average would be lower. But the reason I wanted to set my SL down here is because the top of the cloud and the 55 EMA plus the horizontal support here are all very important supports. They're all aspects of my Ichima dynamics, and they're crucial. So I wanted to make sure I have those there protecting my position. So that said, let me do this just so my screenshot can actually be read a little bit better. By the way, in addition to these amazing entries on the way up, that short back there, I ended up not staying in it very long. I probably got in. I don't even know. I don't remember where I exited, but that short, if I had stayed in the whole time, perfect. 18% dump, almost exactly to the bottom of the cloud, and then each of these bounces almost exactly at the bottom of the cloud. That's why I was able to get such insane precision entries. Using the bottom of the cloud, which is one of my key supports, one of my Ichima dynamic supports of my Ichima model. Man, what an insane model, man. It's so simple, but so incredibly successful and lucrative. Really is amazing how simple it is compared to other people's complex trading strategies. Alright, so let me finish running through the list and see if there's anything else. Is Tomo getting ready again on the daily? Well, everything looks good on the daily. I'm really looking for the 4-hour charts now to try to find somewhere that can be a good entry right around here. And the 4-hour will tell me that. The 4-hour will say that we're very close to that reversal for that bullish push up. The daily, it could still be quite a ways off. But this 4-hour right here on fetch. Now this is a really strong horizontal support range. You can see not only down here where the wicks are, this whole range is just a really strong support range. It seems to have never wanted to go down lower than that. There is a downside to that. When you have a lower support that's tested this continuously like this, right, one candle after another, you're going to end up with a potential descending triangle if you have the right tops, and in this case the tops are right. There's definitely a descending triangle here, so that ends up turning this into a pretty bearish formation. See it? So descending triangles like that are usually quite bearish. There's a good chance we could dump from here. Normally I would say with a descending triangle there's about a 75 or 80% chance it dumps down. However, in this particular case, with the daily looking so bullish, having such strong prior support at this lower support range, and the 4-hour having a reset stoke, plus some bullish divergence on the RSI, this might be one of those cases where you get that 20% odds that it doesn't go down, and it does indeed break up. So that very well might happen here. You got some bullish divergence here, right? The price is either going down or at least sideways here, while the RSI is trending up. So that is definitely some mild bullish divergence, a reset on the 4-hour stoke, and we're sitting close to support. The question is, if I were to buy right here, probably a little bit high on the risk side. Because for me to buy right now, if I wanted to put my stop loss below that support, my stop loss would have to be 2.8%, 2.7% below my entry. I don't really want to take that risk. I'm trying to find, I did that on Ethereum for specific reasons. My analysis that I conducted helped me to come to the conclusion that I'm okay with that level of risk. Here, I don't really want to do that on these alts. I'd rather look for some entries where I can buy and set my stop loss 2% below my entry, maybe a little lower than 2%. So I'll set an alert. If we go back down to where this last wick down was, if we can get just a little bit lower, and I get a pop-up for that, I may jump in then. Let me look at the hourly. So the hourly looks like it's turning back down. We might get one more move down. If we can get down back to the support, then I could buy at that support, and then my stop loss would only have to be like 2% below my entry, if not less, maybe even 1.75%. So let's see. If I get a notification, then I'll probably want to hop in. Go back to the 4 hour. Man, it's so late. I have to go to bed. I have to go to bed. I have to go to bed. Shit. I gotta get up with the kids really early. This is starting to turn south. So BTT already had its breakout bounce, and now it's coming back down. OMG is pumping right now, so it's too late for me to get into that. Band is starting to get close to resetting, but not quite there. ONT is really close to resetting. Similar to Matic and Algo, we had a long extended dump, and now we're getting that initial bounce. Let's see, what does the daily look like? The daily looks very similar to those. That is not, I don't really have the recent support at that level I would like. That's almost a 786 retrace from that pump. It's a pretty big retrace. Should be about the 786. Pretty much, that is literally exactly the 7. How sick was that call? Like I've told you guys before, sometimes with Fibonacci's, I can just look at the chart and know exactly where that fib is. I just said it's a 786. Look at that, 786. Exact. So essentially, after this big bull run, we retraced to the 786 fib retracement. This could be an ideal place for it to bounce. That's certainly true. I just don't know if there's enough support there to hold it. We also had this downtrend on the volume, and usually we get that next wave up, so volume may start to pick up again. So this retraced pretty much right to the 618. If I were to use that wick, it would be about to the 0.5, but I think that can be ignored. So yeah, this is about a 618 retracement from that move up. So that could be wave 1, wave 2. We could potentially be starting a wave 3 if we look at the 4-hour chart. One up, wave down, starting to get that next push up. So if I were to buy right here, my SL could go. You know what? I can keep my stop loss under 2% below my entry. I'm going to buy right here. Then what I'm going to do is set another order a little bit lower. What that'll do is if I buy a bag here and then my stop loss goes down 1.75% below my entry. What that means is if I enter right here and then this 618 Fibonacci retracement, which is now a support, fails, it'll go lower, and the next mean support would be the next fib, the 786, and then my stop loss is just below that. So I can afford to go down a little bit more as long as that next support holds. So yeah, I'm going to make this trade. And then larger scale, I showed you guys already, but the based on the daily, we had a bigger reset that retraced all the way to the 786 of the long run from before. So that's also a strong support zone because we're sitting the 618 right here, but more importantly, we're also sitting right at the 786 fib retracement from the main bull run. So this is a really, really strong sign. A really good support zone to be in. On ONT. One of my all-time faves. Trying to figure out what the hell else is going on the chart that's causing all these other items to be listed on the sidebar. I don't see anything else from prior trades or anything that could cause that. So I don't know where the... Oh, there's one, for instance. Okay. I was going to say, I don't know where all those other data points are coming from. And look at that. I called that top 2 before this dump. Again, that was a Stoke-based call. All right, last few. Oh, my Bolt. I don't know if you guys got into my longer term Bolt trade, but I'm still holding that. And ever since it came off of that bottom support, this new entry on Bolt has been really strong. So I'm hoping it can keep pushing up. We'll see. So this is exactly what I was just talking about, right? That extended drop, initial bounce, correction, and then we're waiting for the next push. Look, we're just getting it on Atom. Like, that's exactly what I'm saying I'm waiting for on Algo, on Matic, on, on these other ones. So hopefully the other ones could do exactly what we're seeing now on Atom. That's exactly what I would like to see on ONT and Matic and Algo. Let me go back to Matic and Algo and see if I can justify an entry on those, because I really do have to go. I gotta let you guys go for the night. That looks good as well. Looks like we have a nice reset on the 4-hour, just about getting underway. The daily is just as bullish as all the others. Looks like we're on the cusp of a big reversal, and the hourly doesn't really help. The hourly is zigzaggy all over the place. Now, shit. I wish it was a little bit lower. So with that, if I were to try the same thing, if I were to buy here, my SL would have to be too low, too much risk there. This is another example. I wish I caught into that one. CELR, but CHZ is not really as pretty looking. Dot has to come down more, it looks like. ICX is a good one. IOTA could be in play as well. Probably more so than ICX, because we got a really strong horizontal support right here. And it lines up, again, perfectly with the Stokes. All right, I think this is going to be my last trade. And this one's actually going to be lower risk than the others, believe it or not. So if I buy right now, my SL can be... Oh, that's a beauty. Yeah, I really like that. You know what? I'll take the extra risk. I'll risk up to 2%. These are still risky. I'm going to sleep in 5 minutes, so I'm going to hang up with you guys. But if you're going to stay, if you'll be up for a bit looking at these, I would say if I wasn't going to bed right now, I'd wait a little longer and just see if we can get a little bit lower on some of these. Because if you were able to wait, and if this were to dip down a little bit lower to like 24.80 or something, you could potentially get into a trade like this and only risk like 0.8%, 0.75%. Such a low risk trade. So this is probably medium risk, medium to medium high risk. But there's potential with these setups I just showed you. This one, ONT, Algo, Matic, all of those that have almost identical formations right here. Any of those that you could buy into with under 2% risk is worth it. The Matic and Algo were too risky. I couldn't do those. ONT and this one I got in with under 2% risk. Now, if you could wait a little bit longer and see if you can get in with 1% risk or lower, then it would be an extremely low risk trade. So it's always better if you can wait a little bit. I have to place, I'm trying to place orders on my phone while I do this on my computer. So I don't want to post it to the group yet. I don't want people to go and try to flood it and buy it, but I just spiked it green a little bit because I bought a little bit. Here we go. Okay, should be good. All right. Man, I love HT. It's just too high now, but HT could be a really good play once it resets. Alright, I think I gotta call it a night. I wish I was able to start a little bit earlier and scope through the Alright, were there any other questions in the chat before I let you guys go? How's Link? We could take a quick look at Link before we go. Oh, where's the object tree for those? Well, I'll do it later, but I know what you mean. I didn't know where that option was. But I remembered seeing that. Let me know where it is so I know for next time. Because I couldn't remember how to figure that out. See, look, this is exactly what I want. Like, I missed this one, but same exact setup. Initial bounce after that extended correction, retrace, and now the bounce. So hopefully ONT and IOTA can give you that exact sort of action I'm looking for. ICX is also looking similar, but that one, it's too risky. I would have to get my stop loss would have to be too low, so I can't do it. Now, RVN SXP is really bottomed out as well. There's no prior trading history there, so it would be way too risky to try to get in with it. Yeah, same thing with XL, and that would have to be a little too risky to get in. So I just can't do it. It sucks. I really wish I could get into more of these. How about one same setup on everything. I got a horizontal support that's been on my chart for ages. So with WAN, with one chain, that's doable. It's higher risk, 2.5% below my entry. All right, I'm gonna do it. Shit, I briefly mentioned Link earlier. Well, I'm not. I'm not gonna make a trade on Link, but so I'm not gonna bother going over it. But for like longer term, we can talk about it tomorrow. I'll do a stream tomorrow. We could talk about it. I gotta go to sleep. And Jenny's gonna need me to wake up to feed the baby, like really early, because she has her right now, and then I was gonna take the last shift, so like I'm gonna get no sleep. So I'm gonna go crash. I'm gonna get, so this WAN trade now. I'm gonna do this. I'm buying it right now as we speak on my phone, but it is definitely riskier than the other ones that I did. Because on this one, I'm taking well over 2% risk, and the last couple trades, I was actually taking under 2% risk. So it's definitely riskier. But we have some good bullish divergence here on RSI. We have a full reset on the Stoke. Any other questions before I let you guys go? Any more? Nope, no other questions. We're good to go. How do I do an hour and a half stream when I specifically said I wanted to do like a 15-minute stream? Yeah, it was good. It was a good stream. Thank you. I like doing. We went over, looking for fresh trades, but also covered some of the basics and some of the educational topics. I like to give a fresh, brief review every once in a while for our members. So some of it's things you just might not think about for a while. So it's always good to briefly talk about some of the stuff we've talked about in the past, just to get a nice reminder of that sort of stuff. The educational topics are obviously the most important thing when it comes to the live streams, even more important than looking for live trades. But anybody who's in the basic group and not in premium, this is why people like premium, because in addition to teaching people one-on-one and offering one-on-one help, just the live streams are great. Now, again, only a couple people responded to me. I said I'm getting back to my normal schedule of getting on phone calls. I do. We could do voice calls. Anybody who's in premium, if you guys want, if you want to talk about strategy or technique, or if you have any questions about different types of investments, or you want to talk to me about anything like that, or have questions about politics and how it might affect the market, whatever you want, you guys are more than welcome. Shoot me a DM. We can get on a voice call and chat. I've been doing that. I fell behind. I was like a couple weeks where I didn't get on any calls with anybody. So if any of you are in premium and you still want to get on a phone call with me, or if you're one of the people who was asking me to get on a call and I kept putting you off and never got back to you, again, I'm back to my normal schedule with that stuff now. I'm setting aside a couple hours each day where I do calls with members. So let me know. Shoot me a DM. We'll set a time and we can get on the phone and chat. Something that I encourage everybody to do. You have access to the tool, and I have a good amount of experience, and just the way I think logically, I have a really strong understanding of these markets and how they work. It's just sort of an innate, logical mindset. So if you feel like I can in some way help you and help you come up with a good strategy or help you better understand how things move in the market and why, definitely take advantage. Do not think you know it all. I'm more than happy to help. I love doing it. I'm available. Take advantage of it, guys. Just let me know. All right. All right. Looks like nobody had any other questions. So let's call it a night, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, okay? Everybody do me a favor and like the stream, too. I never ask people to do it, but I got to start doing that. Everybody make sure you like and subscribe the stream. Make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube if you're not already. And that's it. Awesome. Thanks, boys. It's a good stream. Talk to you guys tomorrow.